The transport ship Endurance shuddered as it descended through the toxic atmosphere of Kepler 442c, its hull groaning against the caustic winds that had claimed 17 previous colonial expeditions from other species. Captain Maria Rodriguez gripped her command chair, watching the readouts flicker between amber and red warnings. Atmospheric composition holding steady at 60% sulfur dioxide, reported Navigator James Park from his station. Landing zone confirmed. The only stable ground within 300 kilometers. Through the viewport, the surface of Kepler 442c stretched endlessly, a wasteland of crystalline formations jutting from pools of liquid methane beneath skies that churned with perpetual storms. No vegetation existed here. No water flowed. The planet registered as habitability class impossible in every galactic database. It was perfect. Dr. Elena Vasquez checked her instruments one final time as the ship touched down with a bone-jarring impact. Environmental suits are mandatory for the first 6 months, she announced to the 300 colonists packed into the cargo holds. Maybe longer. The atmospheric processors will need time to establish safe zones. But the humans aboard the Endurance had not traveled 47 light-years to play it safe. Within hours of landing, Engineering Chief Robert Kim had teams assembling the first atmospheric processor, while others established the initial habitat domes. The galactic community had declared this world uninhabitable after the Vrex Empire lost 2,000 colonists to the toxic atmosphere. The silicon-based Helix Confederation had abandoned their settlement after their crystal cities dissolved in the acid rain. Even the adaptable Aquari, who could survive in liquid methane, had retreated after concluding the planet was too hostile. The humans began building anyway. The soil composition is actually favorable once we neutralize the acid content, Dr. Vasquez reported during their first week. She knelt beside a small experimental plot where earth tomatoes grew in specially treated soil, their red fruit a splash of defiant color against the gray landscape. We can work with this. The storms came on the 8th day, winds exceeding 200 kilometers per hour, carrying clouds of sulfuric compounds that would have dissolved the respiratory systems of most known species. The colonists retreated to their reinforced habitats and waited. On the 9th day, they emerged and continued building. Captain Rodriguez established contact with the Galactic Colonial Authority on day 15. The response came 3 days later. Bewilderment, followed by grudging respect, then genuine curiosity. "How are you still alive?" asked Commander Thex, a 6-armed being whose species had established 47 successful colonies across the galaxy. "Our simulations indicated total habitability failure within 72 hours. Your simulations probably didn't account for stubbornness," Rodriguez replied, watching through her office window as colonists in environmental suits played volleyball on a court they had cleared between 2 habitat domes. "We've had worse weather in Chicago." By month 3, the atmospheric processors had created pockets of breathable air spanning several square kilometers. The colonists had cultivated their first successful crop of modified earth vegetables, established 3 manufacturing centers, and built a communications array that could reach Earth despite the planet's electromagnetic interference. More importantly, they had done something no other species had attempted. They had begun terraforming operations not to make the planet comfortable, but to make it productive. "We're not trying to recreate Earth," explained Dr. Vasquez to a delegation of alien observers who arrived in month 6. "We're creating something new. The sulfur compounds in the atmosphere are perfect for certain industrial processes. The crystalline formations contain rare minerals. The methane lakes can be processed into fuel." The Vrex delegate clicked his mandibles in confusion. "But the environment is hostile to biological life." "So was early Earth," Dr. Vasquez replied. "We figured it out then too." By the end of year 1, New Darwin, as the colonists had named their settlement, housed 5,000 humans and produced enough industrial materials to supply 6 other colony worlds. The hostile environment that had defeated every other species had become humanity's greatest asset. The acid rains that dissolved silicon-based structures were channeled into massive collection systems that provided raw materials for manufacturing. The sulfurous atmosphere that poisoned other species was processed into fertilizers that made Earth crops grow faster and larger than they ever had in terrestrial soil. The methane lakes that had trapped quarry expeditions became fuel refineries that powered the growing industrial complex. "This is remarkable," admitted Admiral Corex of the Helix Confederation during a formal visit in Year 2. His crystalline form shimmered with what humans had learned to recognize as surprise. "You have made the uninhabitable not merely habitable, but desirable." Captain Rodriguez, now Governor Rodriguez, stood on the observation deck of the Central Administration Building, looking out over a bustling city that shouldn't have existed. Humans moved through the streets in light environmental gear, tending to gardens that grew in recycled atmospheric toxins, operating factories that turned poison into profit. "The designation in your galactic databases was wrong," she told the Admiral. "This planet isn't uninhabitable, it just requires the right species to inhabit it." And indeed, as reports of New Darwin's success spread throughout the galaxy, humanity received its first formal recognition from the Galactic Colonial Authority. The exclusive rights to settle all class-impossible worlds throughout known space. Other species had sought paradise among the stars. Humans had looked at hell and seen potential. This would mark their first human colony, and if the galaxy had its way, it would mark their final need to establish any other